We have a very personalized approach. Like I said, I make myself available 24/7. I get to know you on a personalized level. We write up a personalized care plan and steps on how we're going to approach this. A lot of times people will basically just give you a list of things to do. And just looking at that list can be really overwhelming. But what I like to do is say, okay, I've got a list of things, but let's start with this. This is what we need to do first, because I've seen the picture as a whole. I know that you have to take one thing at a time to get through it. So I'm there to guide them through the process.
Welcome to the Carolina Senior Talk Podcast, your trusted source for all things related to senior living in the Carolinas. In each episode, we'll guide you through the best locations, offer advice on buying a home, and share tips on relocating within this beautiful region. Whether you're exploring new senior communities, considering a move, or looking to invest in your current dream home, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover everything you need to know about senior living in the Carolinas. Well, hello there, folks. Welcome again to another edition of our podcast where we talk all things senior. And what do we call ourselves? Well, we call ourselves Carolina Senior Talk. So we talk about all things senior, but I want to lead into today's guest with the following thoughts. Number one, as we age, as people age, okay, it's not just the person that is going through these issues. There are a lot of other individuals and groups that are involved in this process, whether we like it or not. And we need to think about that. So there's the individual himself or herself going through physical changes, you've got cognitive changes, and you might have emotional changes that you go through. Then you've got the family members, the immediate surrounding support group, if you will, if we are so fortunate to have them around us. Most notably the spouse, your children, other relatives and neighbors. Those are the people that you're going to be leaning on. But they need to lean on somebody. And so then you have caregivers. And there's all kinds of caregivers. There's in-home, there's professional, there's nursing staff, and so forth and so on. But then you get into the actual system, the healthcare system. And as our aging population gets larger, this healthcare system needs to address the needs of this aging population, most notably in the form of more care, more long-term care, specialized services, and so forth. And then last but not least are the actual communities where we live, our house that we live in. It's where I come in as a realtor. Can we stay in our house? Or do we need to be in a community that's more suitable for our age, like an over 55 or maybe assisted living? And those are a lot of issues that come into being. How do you navigate all of that? That's the question. And it can be quite intimidating, quite overwhelming. So as a result of that, we have today's guest, who is Tabitha Burris, and she is with Serenity Senior Consulting Services. So Tabitha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Well, you fill such an important role in this whole complex situation. And so I think it's very important that people hear what you have to offer them and how you can help them in this process. So in a nutshell, what are your services? What does your group do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at Serenity, we're a senior consulting service, and we help families navigate through the aging process, which, as you said before, can be a daunting task. So we're there to help them navigate through that and make it easier.
Well, that's a nutshell, all right.
It is.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Sure. So, I was born in New York, but I consider myself a Charlottean because I moved down here when I was 5 years old. Lived in Charlotte most of my adult life until I married my husband at the age of 27. And we moved up north to Huntersville, then to Mooresville. And that's where I am now, is in Mooresville, North Carolina. And we're really happy. We love the lake here, and we plan on staying here and raising our family for a long time.
How many you got in that family?
Oh, goodness. We've got three girls, three little girls. They are young, so 8, 6, and 4. So we've got 2 in school, 1 in preschool part-time. And I hate to admit it, but we're looking forward to having all 3 of them in school this coming fall.
Yeah, it keeps you hopping for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
So you are in an interesting business and profession. How in the world did you get into this? What's the segue?
Okay, so, well, I've actually been in the senior care industry for over 20 years.
Wow.
Once I had my second daughter in 2018, I decided I needed to be at home more often with them because I was working in an office out of Charlotte. So I decided, I'm going to work part-time from home. And then that turned into being a full-time stay-at-home mom. And then, you can lose yourself, just being a stay-at-home mom. And I felt like I had this wealth of knowledge in senior care, and I've spent 2 decades working in senior care and helping seniors, that I felt something was missing. So literally one evening, sitting on the porch with my husband, I told him I really wanted to get back out into the workforce, but needed something that would be really flexible. So I decided to start Serenity, and here we are now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue, great background, and nice to see somebody with such a family-based outlook.
Thank you.
In the end, that's what it's all about, I think. Now, that's all nice and well, but this is where I get mean a little bit. And,
Okay.
Sorry. We have a tradition that we've established here where we put you through what we call the gauntlet. Okay.
Okay.
So who are we dealing with but boomers and aging, what is it, Generation X, I guess they call them. I never can keep up with the names, but basically boomers. So there's a lot of things that occurred during the boomers' time. And so we're going to hit you with a couple of trivia questions and see if you can pass. Now, this is a pass-fail.
All right.
All right. So.
All right. Throw them at me. I'm ready.
If you don't do it, this is going to be a short podcast. All right.
I lose my street cred.
Categories you get to pick from: pop culture, television, music, movies, cars, news, and sports. What say you?
Let's go with pop culture.
Pop culture it is.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Softball. Get the big old bat out.
I'm ready.
Which clothing item was popular fashion in the 1950s? Well, before you were born.
1950s. Yeah, absolutely.
A, swing skirts. B, poodle skirts. C, capris. D, pencil skirts. Gosh, I think I remember.
So I would have to say, is that the poodle skirts?
You got it. Ding, 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 ding. All right. Very good. All right. You want to stick with that category?
Let's do it.
All right. Here's another tough one. This might require some thought.
Okay.
Name the sticky invention of, this is a giveaway, of 3M in 1979. Sticky invention by 3M in 1979. A, super glue. B, Post-it note. C, sticky note. D, bookmarker.
I would have to say maybe the sticky Post-its.
I'm going to give it
or is it Post-it
notes.
Post-it notes, yes.
Yep.
Well, you said sticky notes. Isn't that the same as Post-it notes? Because they're sticky on the back.
You may have heard me pause. Like, what? Wait a minute. What's a sticky note versus a Post-it note?
A Post-it note,
but the key there was, I think, Post-it note is branded to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And super glue almost had me there. So I almost got stuck on that. No fun. All right, let's get into it here. Thank you. And you passed, by the way, with flying colors. So what inspired you, Tabitha, to get into this Serenity Seniors Consulting world?
Sure.
Talked about it being on the front porch.
Yeah. So my inspiration, it's my experience, just being in it for 20 years.
Yeah.
It all started when I was really young, dealing with a grandmother that had dementia. Watching her go through that, I started out as a CNA when I was 16 years old, 16 years old, being a CNA right out of high school, and then seeing my grandmother in facilities and my family dealing with all of the struggles of navigating senior care. So I went into senior care myself, started working for in-home care agencies specifically with seniors. So that's where I started. And my interest in senior care just grew from there. And that's where I gained all of my experience and my knowledge. I was able to connect with the right people. I had amazing mentors, and which I still have today. And I have wonderful friends that have connected me with the community in senior care. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I had that experience over 20 years that I felt like I was missing out on sharing that knowledge. And I know it's something that a lot of families deal with and need and struggle with. And it's such a daunting experience. And I wanted to help them make it easier for them. At Serenity, we say we are your compass in the world of aging. And that's exactly what I wanted to be. I wanted to point them in the right direction, make everything easier for them. So that way they can go from being the family caregiver to going back to being the daughter or the son or grandchild, whatever it is, because I was there. I was a caregiver once for my grandmother for several years. And even when she was in a facility, I was still visiting, 2-3 times a week, just making sure that she was getting the care that she needed and the care that she deserved. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't have that. So I wanted to offer my services so that I could help them and be that for them.
I think that's wonderful. I think, when I think back on my parents and my in-laws and my wife's parents, the thing that was missing was an advocate often. But it's one thing to be an advocate and be passionate about wanting the best for your loved one, but you may be lacking. As a family member, you may be lacking the knowledge and the experience that you bring to the table. And that's what sets you apart, I think, by a long shot. So if we were to list the services that you provide, what could you tell us there?
Mainly referrals, pointing them in the right direction, facilities, giving them the questions of what to ask when you're going into a facility, because a lot of times they just don't know what to expect when they go in, informing them of prices, teaching them, giving them education on Medicaid versus Medicare, and also geriatric care management. So like you said, be the advocate for their family member, but then also help them with the day-to-day struggles, scheduling appointments, making sure they have a caregiver, making sure they have transportation to wherever they need to go, and making those connections for them that I have being in the industry for over 20 years.
So that's just a tremendous amount of value you bring to the table is the connections. So when you talk about referrals, you're talking about the connections.
Yes.
Go drill down on that a little bit more. What would that include? Who would that include?
Sure. So it could be anything from like a senior real estate specialist as yourself. Referrals to a facility that fits their needs and the level of care that they're at that point. In-home care services, as well as companies that can help them with Medicaid, people that can help them access their VA benefits. And then also things like doctors, even a lawn service, just about anything you could think of. If I don't have the answer for you right away, I have the connections in the community to be able to put you in touch with someone who has had a positive experience working with seniors in that specific field.
Now, how would somebody find you? I mean, they're going to call you up, and what does that process look like? I assume that you would be frequently referred to somebody because somebody knows you and had a prior experience with you. But what is that process? What would they expect?
So usually, like you said, it is a referral. So they say, I was referred to you by Dave Edwards, and they said that you can help. So usually it is word of mouth. That is my number one referral. They can also reach out to me. They can fill out a form online on our website at serenityseniors.org.
Okay.
Just basic information, and then I reach out back to them. They can contact me at my personal number, 704-877-6568. I make myself available 24/7 because I understand that families need help 24/7. This is not a 9 to 5 type job. Now, when you call me, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what challenges are you facing? And then that way I can guide you to referrals or how I feel I can help. Because a lot of times, if I just say, hey, what's going on? They can give me a slew of information and it's not exactly what I need. So for me to give them the best referral at that time. So I ask them specifically, what are the challenges that they're facing? So that way I can help with those challenges.
And so do you ever field the question, why you guys? I mean, do you ever have to defend your value proposition? What do you say to that?
Well, I always lead with my 20 years of experience. That's something that a lot of people just don't have, with my connections in the community. Also because we care, I didn't have to start this business on my own. Like I said, I just did it because I felt like I needed to give back and I wanted to help those families so that they didn't have to go through what my family went through and what a lot of families are going through right now. Yeah. We have a very personalized approach. Like I said, I make myself available 24/7. I get to know you on a personalized level. I don't just work for you, but we become friends. I want to know, the details of what's going on, talk to you on the phone if you're having a rough time with your family member. We write up a personalized care plan and steps on how we're going to approach this. A lot of times people will basically just give you a list of things to do. And just looking at that list can be really overwhelming. But what I like to do is say, okay, I've got a list of things, but let's start with this. This is what we need to do first. Once we've completed this, we're going to move on to step 2. Because I've seen the picture as a whole. I know that you have to take one thing at a time to get through it. Whereas a lot of times if someone else coming from the outside, they come and look and see, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to contact this person, and then this and this. It's just a huge list of things to do. It can become overwhelming and then nothing gets done. So I'm there to guide them through the process, make sure that it goes smoothly and take it one step at a time. But really, like I said, we care.
You're bringing up something that is, keen to me, and that is the forest from the trees aspect of what you're doing. By that, I mean that oftentimes we hear about a caregiver, we bring in home care, and so now we're taking care of dad, and basic medical, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and so forth and so on, and you become reliant upon their advice as to what the next step is. And that's within the trees, whereas you're taking a higher level navigational approach. That's just one of the trees. That's one of the things that you get involved with within the intimate details of care, and you provide a much more thoughtful, strategic direction, as to what the alternatives are and how to get there. Which I think is underutilized, underappreciated sometimes. You get too much into the weeds, if you will, not to use another analogy, to be able to see the forest from the trees. How many analogies can we use here? Right? Tell us about, I'm sure you've had a couple of experiences. Is there one that you'd like to share that stands out as an example of where you brought value to the situation?
Oh, yeah. I had a wonderful family and a wonderful gentleman that I worked with who unfortunately has since passed away. But because of where he was with his dementia and his health, it was overwhelming for the family, to say the least. Very overwhelmed. They had no idea where to start, and they all worked. So it was, how do I take care of this while still working? Because you have to pay for the services somehow. Yeah. So, we started out looking at facilities. We got him placed in a facility, and unfortunately, he had some medical issues, so he ended up going into the hospital. And then the family's starting to deal with, the nurses and trying to advocate for him. So I would call the caseworker, the case manager, and handle that for them so the family didn't have to, because the caseworker would say things and family would be like, I don't know what you're telling me. I don't understand what it is that you want me to do here. Yeah. Sadly, when you're in a hospital, they just want to turn beds and try to get you out as soon as possible. But really, he wasn't suitable to go home right away. He needed to stay in. So I was able to talk to the caseworker and keep him in longer. And lo and behold, they found something that was wrong with him that was causing all of the issues, that they were able to say, once we solve this issue, he can go home. And we were happy with that. We needed to find out medically what was going on with him. And keeping him in the hospital longer, we were able to find that. Whereas if he would have gone home, who knows what would have happened? So he ended up going back home, which was the facility. And, we also found him caregivers to help advocate for him in the facility. So he had facility and caregivers coming in. And then, he did become end of life and sadly passed away, but he was happy, whereas before he was very uncomfortable because of his health issues. The family was fighting with the hospital because they wanted to send him home without solving what was wrong, because what was wrong with him was creating him to become combative. How that happens a lot of times when you have Alzheimer's or dementia, you become combative, your personality changes. So he wasn't the dad and the grandfather that they were used to. And they were like, something is wrong. We need to find out what is wrong. And thankfully, the hospital kept him in longer and they found what was wrong.
Good.
Otherwise, he would have gone home and would have continued to be combative. The family would have continued to be, crying on the phone. And then at the end of it, after it was all said and done, and, he passed away peacefully, I had an amazing phone call with his daughter. And she was just like, thank you so much. Because without you advocating for our dad, he would have passed away and been in pain, would have been uncomfortable, and he wouldn't have been the man that we remembered that he was before. So that story is...
I think it's a wonderful story. And I think, hearing that story makes me think that there's another thing that you bring to the table that might not be as apparent. And that is, when you get into these situations, there is medical language being bantered about, acronyms.
Yeah.
In medical language that they understand and we as laymen don't. And so it's tough to absorb. The second component is the psychological aspect of this, an emotional aspect of that, which needs to be translated, not to mention the advocacy that you do. And so being able to translate what the doctor or the counselor or whomever is there trying to tell the family members what the next step is going to be or what the condition is daunting in and of itself. So your experience enables you to translate that and put it back in layman speak. I think that's another intangible that's underestimated. I know I feel, I just remember being totally intimidated by parents and my in-laws when they were in the hospital and just dealing with their issues. If it weren't for my wife's advocacy, she would just barrel right through those things. But that's where I learned to appreciate that momentum, if you will. What geographic areas do you cover?
Well, most of my clients have been in Iredell and surrounding counties. Since that's where I'm located. That's where most of my connections are. Yeah. But I've had clients in Florida, in Conover, a lot of places that I've never been to, but a lot of the education is still the same. And if they need assistance with finding a facility, facilities have phone numbers. They have virtual tours. I know who to call, so that way I can ask them the proper questions to see if it's even worth my client's time in going to have a tour. But really, I would say anywhere.
Yeah. So you partner up with a lot of different service providers out there. You mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Who else might be interested that you maybe perhaps haven't mentioned or you would like to hear this podcast?
Anyone in the senior care industry, and people outside of the senior care industry, you may, like yourself, as a senior real estate specialist, I know you probably come across people in the realty community that, family members that may need help and you can point them towards me. But, like I said, I've helped neighbors in my community, in-home care companies, rehabs, homes, SNFs, which are skilled nursing facilities, independent living communities, Medicaid, Medicare. I mean, the list can go on and forever.
Extensive.
Literally everyone knows seniors. You encounter seniors every day, and a lot of them, need help. They just don't know that this is a service that is out there and that we can help them with.
It's available. All right. So let's go back over. You had mentioned this earlier, but what's the best way to get a hold of you and engage your services?
So the best way would to just give me a direct phone call, or if you're too busy, shoot me a text message. Okay. You can reach me at 704-877-6568 or through my website at serenityseniors.org. You can fill out your information there, and I'll reach you within 24 hours.
serenityseniors.org. And if you didn't write that phone number down fast enough, my friends, it's going to be posted online here. So don't worry about that. So we have the contact information. We know what you do. And I think you provide a wonderful, wonderful service. Thank you again for being a participant in this podcast. I think it's a great value, and I appreciate what you do out there.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the time that I've had to share Serenity with you, and even those pop culture questions.
You know what? Next time we get together, I'm going to bring the whole book out and throw it at you.
Please do. Absolutely. I welcome
again. It. All right. Take care.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Carolina Senior Talk podcast. We hope you found today's episode both informative and helpful. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review and share it with those who might benefit from our advice. If you or anyone you know is looking to buy, sell, or relocate to the Carolinas, or you simply want to know how much equity you have in your home, be sure to contact me at www.carolinaseniortalk.com. Until next time, we wish you the best on your senior living journey in the Carolinas. Thank you for listening once again, and talk to you soon.